very grateful for your interest. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our guest speaker for today, Mr. Faiz Sirkhot. Mr. Faiz is currently working as the head of talent sourcing and strategic leadership hiring for Tata Consultancy Services based in Mumbai. He has experience of working in the field of recruitment for over 14 years in domains of tech and non-tech recruiting, strategic sourcing and leadership hiring across 18 diverse verticals. His skilled expertise in global talent acquisition has helped mobilize over 1 million candidates annually across India. We are very glad to have you joining us today, Mr. Sirkhot, as we are sure to gain some valuable information through your presentation. We would now request our esteemed guest speaker to begin with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalom. And good afternoon to everybody. I see we've got a good crowd on the call, and Shivam actually approached me to have a quick word in terms of what's happening in the industry, especially I'm guessing a lot of students are worried, a lot of education institutes are worried about what's really going to happen for the placement perspective, and are there going to be jobs for students that are passing out this year, and so on and so forth. And I think those are very valid concerns, and I'll try and touch upon all of those areas. And I understand that we have about 15-20 minutes of question answer sessions where I would love to take questions from all of the participants and understand their concerns one-on-one, and be able to share some thoughts and insights on that. But one of the reasons why we're even having this webinar essentially is because of this entire COVID-19 pandemic that has happened, right? And it's sort of changed the world in a very, very drastic way, in an unprecedented way, and at an unexpected pace. And which is what is very important for everybody to understand. And sometimes what happens is not something. As humans, we tend to deny change till we are forced to change. All right. To give you a good example around that, so TCS has been the pioneer and on the forefront of a lot of changes, right? I mean, they've been pioneers in the IT industry, and that's what brought about this drastic nationwide IT boom, right? Despite of all of the pioneers that we've been in, we've been a very, very strong opposition of work from home. All right. We always felt that work from home is not for us. We felt that TCS as an organization, cannot really have its 4.5 lakh people work from home and still guarantee productivity, client security, and so on and so forth, right? And which is why for so many years, all of us, including top management, were very, very clear we will not go and work from home, right? But the moment the COVID-19 pandemic broke loose, we were all forced to work from home, and we realized that it is absolutely normal working from home. You can be as productive, in fact, more. Our estimates actually say that 25% of people, 25% of productivity increase will happen just because we are working from home, right? The reason why I'm trying to bring about is that with so much of impact the COVID-19 scenario has, that it changes people's mindsets, changes the mindsets of organizations, right? We've now come to believe that working from home is normal. Not just that, we've actually gone ahead and committed that we will continue to work from home even till 2025. And 25% of our workforce will probably have to just work 25% of their time from home. Right? Essentially means that we were actually very quick to adapt the moment we realized that work from home is normal. Right? And that's how it brought about the change that it is. Now, this is not a small change. The very fact that TCS has taken this step, you will now see a lot of companies taking this step. In fact, our estimate says that about 60-70% of the IT industry is now going to work from home, right? And that's a change that will be brought about. But the reason why I'm even sharing these examples is I wanted to highlight the impact COVID-19 has had on the world. Again, this is just with respect to working, right? There are many other impacts that the COVID-19 situation has had. It's had impact on the economy. It's going to be having impact on the technology that we are working on and so forth. And all of these are basically going to impact um, the way students are absorbed, right? And I'm sure that's where most participants on the call are interested in. And I will definitely want to touch upon that. Um, but what I'm telling about change is extremely important to understand, because I think that's where we will realize what these students and colleges need to do. What has happened is a lot of things have now gone online, right? We have interviews now happening online. We have colleges, sorry, not interviews alone. We have a lot of things going online, testing, etc. And all of that is going to bring about the impact. But before that, I'm sure a lot of you have students that were supposed to probably join companies, and those companies got either delayed or cancelled their onboarding. Um, so these are all impacts that have happened because of COVID-19, and it's important that we understand where it is coming from. So let me give you another input about the industry. So in almost all the IT companies that exist in the industry today, okay, would have delayed their onboarding, not just fresher onboarding, but also their lateral onboarding. Okay, but considering we're talking about colleges and institutes, let's stick to fresher onboarding per se. Since our onboarding for freshers have been delayed, it's extremely important to realize that why have they really delayed these thousands of people that are supposed to be joining? For example, TCS alone has somewhere close to 40,000 people that are expected to join them from the fresher pool. Okay, while we had delayed it, the reason we did that is because we wanted to understand what turn the market is going to take, what are the anticipated changes that are going to be coming about, and so on and so forth. What we understand is a lot of um, this change is going to impact the economy. Okay, but that does not mean that everything is going to shut stop. Right? What's going to happen is we're going to have certain segments of the industry, especially like airlines and travel, that are really going to be impacted. But we will have segments like IT and others that will grow, and those are the ones that will continue to hire. Okay. What's also going to be important is to understand that what kind of roles are going to be benefiting the industry. Um, just let me defer my notes. Okay. So like I mentioned, work from home is a reality. All of the companies are going to do that. I also want you to understand that I also want you to understand that um, COVID-19 has also brought about a huge change when it comes to technology adaptation. Okay? Which is why a lot of companies have moved from human first approach to machine first approach. Now, what does this essentially mean? That where people were essentially being greeted by humans first, whether it is customer service or whether it is banks and retails, you will now find a lot of companies deploying technology to basically address those needs. And the reason why that's important is because that is also going to impact the workforce and the intake of people organizations take. Now, work from home itself will increase productivity. Technology itself will increase the productivity of organizations. And lastly, what's also important to understand is the fact that the industry itself will change. Right? Like I said, travel domain and the airlines domain is going to see some bit of dip, whereas other industries like the IT industry are going to see a good amount of increase in hiring practices. Now, all of these changes will bring about very, very strong impacts on jobs and students who are going to be, be considering for these jobs. One of the most important things, that we will see is students who are better equipped to handle technology will actually get placed first. Okay, whereas students who have stayed away from technology, assuming that I'm a CA or I'm I'm a marketing person and I don't need to know technology, they're gonna face some impact. Okay, the reason being that what I said is, since the world has changed, okay, it has changed in favor of technology and at a very, very fast pace. Which means previously, when companies were acceptable of somebody not knowing technology and giving them the time to learn technology, is not what is going to be acceptable anymore. They're going to ensure that they are going to hire people who are far better, adapted to, far better equipped to adapt to technological changes as compared to others. Okay, and this is where a lot of bright students who may not have technology exposure are going to get hit, and which is why it is important for institutes and colleges to promote the promote learnings in technology and other spaces, to be more readily available and more readily employable. In fact, I was recently looking at hiring a few interns for a couple of opportunities, and so we were on various portals which support intern hiring. One of the things that I noticed is a lot of people also don't have experience, so there absolutely no experience on them, right? And those are the people that are going to get placed last. Okay, the people who have experience on them are going to get placed first, are going to be placed in the most favorable jobs. And this comes very naturally because as an employer, you're going to need to hire people where you have to train them the least, right? If an employer has to train people more, like for example, when TCS hires people, we actually have a 3-month training period, right? That's a huge gap that we need to fill in. But if somebody that we know that we have to onboard and we need to hire, train them only for a month, we would ideally take that person first. It's logical, right? And that's what we plan to do. What is also going to be important for students and colleges to know, like I mentioned, that there will be a reduction in jobs. And when I say there will be a reduction in jobs, it could very well be temporary. Okay, and that's what we are anticipating, that a dip in the economy is going to be temporary because a lot of global cues suggest that India will probably gain far more in the long term than in the short term. But it would be an impact, at least for the first year or the second year, before we start seeing an upward trend. Right? Having said that, it's also important for us to understand what is it that what is it that companies are really looking out for today, right? Like I mentioned, while they are looking at people with technology, they are also looking at people with some bit of experience. But most importantly, they're looking at students who are willing to change at a very, very fast pace. Okay, and that is something we have not experienced in the past, right? We've hired people from the traditional routes. We've hired people with a traditional set of skill sets, but suddenly the game has changed. And because this game has suddenly changed, students, sadly, and institutes for that matter as well, do not have the time to cope up to that kind of a change. Okay, yet they will need to. Now, what do I mean by that? Essentially, the 2020 batch, which has probably graduated this year, and the exams are yet to be held, is what I understand for many of them. They obviously don't have any time, right? They don't even have enough time to probably enroll themselves in a technology course for the next 1 year. Maybe they can do it for a 2-month or a 3-month course and get a crash course into it, but it will not be a thorough 1-year program or a 2-year program that they can take up, right? So this is essentially one of the areas that they're going to be impacted in a big way. But the ones that have already had some exposure to technology will benefit, right? What we also need to factor in is the kind of change. So there are temporary changes and there are permanent changes, right? Some of the changes that COVID are going to make are going to be permanent, and those changes can be identified from the very fact that they benefit both parties. So you have work from home as a scenario. Now, when we talk about work from home, it's something that is going to remain even after the virus goes away and the lockdowns go away. The reason why they're going to be around is because they benefit both parties. They benefit the organization because they lower their infrastructure cost, while they benefit the employee as well because it benefits them in having an ease of work. So they don't have to get up early in the morning, travel 2 hours, and then reach office. They actually can work from home as comfortably, be as productive, and earn an equal amount of money, and don't have to spend time and energy trying to travel and reach a place. Right? So that's what. Having said that, Salam, what's also going to be important and for all of us to know is, what does a student need to do? Okay, and I'll just take a break here quickly. I want to first understand if there is anything particular that any of the students or any of them would like to know. So I'll touch upon that as
well. Hello everyone. I'd like to now everyone can pose their questions on the chat box. Maybe because of that, Mr. Faiz can actually take those questions, and maybe you could get a really better insight.
So okay, so I'll proceed further. Now, like I said, what's going to be important for us to realize in this unprecedented change is how do students really respond to this? And in my opinion, I have seen students not really responding in the most favorable way. I'm sorry, I just wanted to check. Salam, is my video visible? Because I am not able to.
Your video is not visible. We can hear the audio, but the video is not visible.
Okay. I'm sorry. I guess there is a technical issue there because I'm trying to. My video is on my laptop per se.
Just cancel, just stop the video once and then again restart it once. I guess
I tried that, Vishal. I tried that a couple of times, but
I think there might be a network glitch or something like that. So for instance, maybe you could just try taking the question which is in the chat box.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will do that. So I think one of the questions that is there is what kind of certification programs would you suggest for a 2021 batch students? So what I would suggest for the 2021 batch students is definitely to learn more technology. The reason why more technology-based courses are important is because it's important for them to get a good understanding of everything out there. So today we use them as a user. Most technologies that we actually adapt to is as a user. Like, for example, we are all using Zoom today I, for one, did not hear of Zoom before the entire COVID situation began. But as a user, adapting Zoom is extremely easy, because it's a user-friendly tool and I can quickly adapt to it. But the real skill is knowing what goes behind creating a platform like Zoom. And if something like Zoom will benefit my organization, and can I build something like this, what would be the cost of building something like this, and what would be the benefit of it? So it's very important that students today understand technology a lot more deeper. Okay. The other course, and when you talk about when I'm saying course, there's no but one particular course. So a person can actually take on a 6-month technology basics course to get a fair understanding. What they can also do and should also focus on would be understanding artificial intelligence, because that is one thing that was definitely going to be around for a very, very long time. I'm going to take on most of the activities that we are doing today. So the good part for these students is that they could be in the forefront of bringing in those change. Because if you really look at it today, a lot of industries have yet to adapt to technology in a big way. So whether that is artificial intelligence or whether that is normal technology adaptation, companies have been lagging behind, and these students have a great opportunity to bring in that change. So this kind of certificates they should take should be involved in that space. So there are a lot of customized technology courses that are also coming up. So there could be a technology course specifically for the banking industry. There could be a technology course specifically for the IT industry. And that is where I would recommend a student to take on. I hope I've answered that question.
So we'll do one thing. I'll just keep on dictating you the questions.
That will help. That will help.
Ms. Preeti Saxena has this question: how would the selection process differ for campus?
So the selection process is going to differ in a very big way. So earlier, companies like Tata's would travel to about 300 colleges across India to hire people, right? And these hiring would last for about 2 months or so. And we would visit each college, do a placement talk, take the interview for the whole day, hire the people, give an offer, and move out. Right? This is not going to be possible today because it won't make sense risking our employees at the same time risking the students in gathering in a large numbers in a particular place. So what's going to happen is we're going to all move online, right? Interviews are going to happen through video interviews, and we've done the testing, so it's equally if not more productive, in fact, to actually conduct video interviews, because you don't have to have a team of 30 people traveling to 300 locations and having such a huge cost. Video interviews can be taken from anywhere and everywhere, and not just that. Platforms are going to be more readily used. So Apply AI itself is a great platform where people can very quickly, log on to see the candidates that are available and conduct interviews. So it's going to be shifting in that direction for almost everybody. In fact, I don't think there'll be anybody who will eventually say that we will come to your campus if you offer them this opportunity, because it benefits them in all possible ways, and hence that's definitely going to be a way forward.
The next question is by Dr. Bigyan Verma. What kind of tech awareness you would want from a business school to integrate in the curriculum?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. See, tech awareness is not just about knowing technology. Okay, in fact, knowing a particular technology, like Java or C++ or others, is just one aspect of it, because that also gets obsolete very soon, right? So what's more important is making people aware of what new technologies are coming and teaching them to constantly keep themselves updated about everything that is happening in the industry. That's going to be a very key learning for any student for that matter. So if to be more specific to your question, it's not about any one technology, but understanding what is new in the industry. For example, like I mentioned, artificial intelligence is something that is growing in a very, very big way at a very early stage. So most students who are going to be involved in artificial intelligence are going to get placed faster and at a higher premium. Okay. So that's not the only space. There are many other space, big data analytics and so on and so forth. All of these is something that I would recommend people to be aware of. Even if the person is doing commerce today, they should be aware of this. Even if the person is doing arts today, they should be aware of this. And like I said, it's not about knowing how to code. While having to code will always be an added advantage, but it is also about knowing how and what goes behind building such a technology.
The next question is, what skills or short-term courses MBAs should acquire or undertake to tide over the pandemic?
Can you please repeat that?
What skills or short-term courses MBAs should acquire or undertake to tide over the pandemic?
Fantastic. So while I understand MBAs are going to be one segment which are probably going to get impacted the most. Okay. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. They definitely need to learn more about business. They need to know more about what's happening in that particular industry that they want to apply. For example, if somebody wants to apply to, say, the banking space, okay, they need to have a fair idea as to what are the changes that are taking on in that space and be able to learn all those changes faster than the people that are existingly doing it. To give you another good example on that would be, a lot of banks are now going machine first. Okay, if you actually go previously we would find retail staff that would be everywhere, right? Now what's happening is they're trying to automate each one of that bit. In fact, some of the banks globally actually now have a robot assisting you instead of a person assisting you, right? It's not like the technology was not available earlier, but now the banks are willing to invest in that technology because that one person would possibly handle the business or the queries of so many people by providing safety to the other person as well as the bank employee. Okay, so a student would need to know all of these changes because as a management trainee, okay, they will be given responsible positions and they need to know what the world is doing out there and be able to replicate that in their company. MBA should also be involved in doing a lot of internship work. That's something that I would definitely recommend. So like a lot of their hiring, if it is delayed, they should definitely take on job opportunities or internship opportunities wherever possible, whatever fee, whatever stipend they might be getting or not getting, just take on. Because the more experience they have, the more valuable they're going to be to our companies. And that's how I feel they will keep getting calls for interviews.
The other question is, can you throw some light besides technology? What are the list of other skill sets you would look into a student while hiring for profiles that are work from home?
Fantastic. So when you look at skills other than technology, you essentially want to look at how well a person is going to communicate on a call. Are they able to still clearly communicate or collaborate with other participants, even via video conference? That's one. Second skill that one looks at is how is the person self-motivated, and that's probably going to be one of the most important aspects companies are going to look forward to, because they want people to work irrespective of whether there is supervision or not. And that's something that they're going to now give far more importance as compared to earlier. And when I meant self-motivation, I mean that if the person does not have a task assigned, that person will still figure out how to benefit the organization rather than wait for their supervisor to come and give them a task. So yeah,
Question
these are the ones.
Is there any specific suggestion that you would like to give on how should we prepare the management students? Any specific technical skill we must focus on? Yeah, by Dr. Ira Kumar.
No, come again. Sorry.
Any specific suggestion on how we should prepare the management students, or any specific technical skill that we must focus on?
No, so like I said, AI is critical. AI is extremely critical. So if most management students need to understand what artificial intelligence space is doing and how it is impacting business. Without understanding that, they will still find opportunities, but they may not find the best opportunities out there. And which is why it is critical to understand that, because if you name any company worth their salt are investing heavily into artificial intelligence, and people who understand that space are going to get first, preference over people who don't. So that AI would definitely be one space.
One of the student, someone is asking which language should they learn? Which language? I think what they meant is like which programming language, I guess.
Correct. So which is what I mentioned. There is no specific programming language that I would like to recommend, because all programming languages that are right now in the forefront are going to be utilized somewhere or the other. Depends on which language a particular organization wants to pick up for their architecture. So, but what is going to be important is how well that person is able to learn. Okay, because technology itself is changing so fast that what they learn today might become obsolete in 3 years. Then what? Okay, unless they're in a position to learn more and faster, it won't make sense. So no particular language per se, but like I said again, artificial intelligence is something that I would definitely recommend again and again for them to touch upon.
So one other question, how colleges can get more placements to the institute in this pandemic, as everything has switched online and adapting so quick is difficult?
Great. So this question, Vishal, I think is not a short answer actually. See, traditionally what companies have been looking from colleges are bright students. And they did not mind going from college to college to find that. Okay, this pandemic brings with it also the fear of an impending recession. And I want to repeat that it's a fear. It may or may not happen. All right. But when there is a fear of an impending recession, what organizations do, like any individual families as well, they save money. So saving money is going to be extremely, a high priority in most organizations, which is why they're not going to be traveling from companies to places to places, and they're going to rather want to do telephonic interviews and video interviews to identify the top talent. What essentially colleges and institutes need to do to get better placements is definitely adapt to these technologies, because this will enable them to showcase their students to more colleges with ease, right? For example, if one particular company is decided not to travel, okay, and if you share this link with them, they can actually sit and review the students from the comfort of their homes. And that will enable them to get more and more placements. Beyond that, what they essentially need to do is constantly have their students learn more about technology. That is one. Two, they also need to have their students understand what these changes will bring about. So one of the changes expected out of um, one of the changes expected out of the COVID-19 scenario is also the contracts of employment are going to change. When I mean contracts of employment are going to change, essentially mean that people are going to people are going to experience more options in terms of part-time employment. They're going to see options in terms of gig economy. All of these are going to become more and more in the forefront. In fact, a study already suggests 60% of the freelancers on freelancer.com or Upwork are essentially from the Indian subcontinent, which essentially means that India as a nation is already ready or more accepting in terms of gig economy. So that is something that organizations are going to leverage more, which means that they will be providing more gig opportunity options rather than full-time employment as well in the future. So like I said, one of the things that an organization or an institute can do is prepare their students to ensure that they're accepting these terms of employment as well, because these are, what are going to get more offered. So they should be open to taking on something like this. What I would also suggest to institutes to do is encourage their students to take on avenues from different industries. Okay, most students, and that comes from the fact that they get pressurized by parents to take jobs in more safer industries, traditional industries like banks and IT and manufacturing. These have been, what most students opt for. But what's going to be important now is that they are open to looking at options available with startups as well, because they are the ones that are going to create more jobs now as compared to traditional industries. In fact, our hiring data suggests most of the hiring in the industry today is happening because of startups. And they may not be large names like Flipkart and Whiteout Jr., but they would be names that nobody has heard of today, but are still going to be big companies tomorrow. So those are definitely areas that institute should look at encouraging their students to take on, because I rarely see a risk joining a startup, because if you do join a startup, you get to do a lot of work which you will not get to do traditionally in big companies. That student will probably have a much higher capability in 2 years as compared to a person working in a big company. Okay. And even if the startup fails after 2 years, that person is actually far more employable than probably their peers, because they've done far more work. And lastly, I would very strongly encourage institutes to promote entrepreneurship in their organization, in their institutes, because that's the sole way you would actually find people being able to create their own jobs. And that's going to be extremely critical to not just grow the economy, but also create future leaders. So these are the things I would definitely feel institutes should do.
They're asking how much percent reduction do you predict for the recruitment of 2020 batch, and how much will it impact the 2021 batch? Already mass recruiters are using online hiring platforms, so request some insight on this, please.
Sure. So I think the impact is going to be somewhere to the tune of 30-40%. Okay, as compared to last year. 30-40% of it is employment drop is what we can anticipate. What I also feel is what's going to happen is some of it is delayed demand, which essentially means that they may not be hired in the next coming months, but might get hired, say 6 months down the line. So those will also happen. But a 30-40% impact is what you would expect this year. Next year is yet to unfold. I actually, in my opinion, if you ask me, I think next year will see a shift in the industries, but you will see probably a 10% impact and not more. I think by then, demand would have picked up. economy would have normalized, per se, keeping in mind that we were experiencing a dip in economy even before COVID-19. But now that the government has infused some measures, we may see some improvement there. But this year is where you will feel the major impact. Next year is most likely to be to the tune of 10%. But like I said, it's going to be a shift in the industry and the type of employment that would probably come in the coming year. And that is what students need to be prepared
So another question is, relocation was always easy and acceptable by students till now, but due COVID, it became an issue due to various reasons. Is TCS going to be easy on that front?
for. So as an organization, TCS is not enforcing any relocation at this stage. Okay, so because it is work from home, people can actually work from home or anywhere, right? They can actually, decide to move to their hometowns and tier 2 and tier 3 regions where TCS's office does not exist, and actually work from there. So that is something that not only TCS, I think many other organizations are going to be acceptable. Having said that, there's certain businesses which do not want to go online. Okay, even in TCS customers, okay, TCS clients rather, which is where if they are selected for that particular client, is where we would want the person to come and work from office. But there are going to be very few such cases, probably 10-20% at best. But work from home is a reality, like I said. So there will not be any push to relocate.
I request everyone to just stop posting their questions now. We'll be just taking till now how many questions are remaining. We'll just take those and then we'll end the session. I'd request I'll be posting a feedback form. Please fill it and then you'll also get a certificate for the same. Thank you. Sir, back to you. There's another question. How much delay can we expect for the campus to start for 2021 batch? I think they are asking for the delay in the campus placement procedure for the 2021
Yes.
batch.
So the 2021 batch will most likely get delayed by a couple of months, not more than that. Maybe by. So let me also put how it's going to happen. So while we will take the current 2020 batch in the next couple of months, and that will probably suffice the current demand, right? What will also happen is once things start getting back to normal, possibly in the next 6 months to 8 months, a lot of lateral employees will also start looking at changing their jobs, right? Because they're also experiencing some level of slowdown in their what you call in their salaries and remunerations and etc. They will want to compensate for that, and to compensate for that, they would essentially start looking out for a change within the next 6 months to a year. And to fulfill that, we will again look at possibly hiring fresh young blood. So which is where I anticipate that the delay, if at all, will probably be there for a couple of months and not more for the 2021 batch.
So what is the roadmap ahead for engineering graduates who have been recruited but are waiting for onboarding and busy with the TCS modules?
Fantastic. So, so if you can repeat that question, I don't think I really got it.
So basically what they are asking is like, now that some students have been placed in your esteemed company, right? So right now they are waiting for the onboarding process.
Correct.
And busy with the TCS module. So what ahead of that? Like, when will the joining be or something like that?
Sure. So the joining and all will take place in the next couple of months. So it's going to happen. It's already started in batches and phases. We're just trying to iron out a few creases here and there, but possibly in the next 1 month or two at best, we will start onboarding all of them.
What are the opportunities to science graduate and postgraduate students?
In what space?
They haven't actually mentioned. Maybe they're just asking for the, overall. In fact, like if
No,
students are
so
from
I
science or
mean,
postgraduate.
if the person who's asked the question wants to please unmute and ask, I'll be happy to answer that because it's a little unclear what it meant.
Santosh Kulkarni, you can go ahead, unmute and ask the question. So maybe we'll take the next question for the instance, and then maybe we can come back to the question again.
Sure.
In what way we have to train the non-technical students like maths, physics, and chemistry to get placed in IT-based companies?
See, the good part I'll tell you is a lot of companies, IT, whether it's TCS or others, we are happy to take on people from non-IT backgrounds as well into IT, provided they have learned, what needs to be done. For example, if they've either learned to do coding or they've learned how to, use machine learning or deploy machine learning models or, understand big data. So there are a lot of these courses out there that are 6 months to a year courses. Some of them are actually in affiliation with the company. Those are what will benefit, if they come prepared. And like I said, if their time to hire and deploy is less, then it does not really matter which field they're coming in from. They can be hired. For example, there is one segment of our program where we actually hire non-IT people and put them into a 3-month training program. Okay, and then they become, highly skilled employees of, knowing coding, etc. So definitely would encourage them to learn coding to start with.
So how much time required for handling the situation, and in hotel industry, how we can place the students in this pandemic condition, because mostly hotels minimize their staff.
No, absolutely. I think hotel industry and travel industry are the most impacted by this pandemic. But the good part is that the hotel industry and the travel industry will probably get impacted by a year, okay, or year and a half. Beyond that, it will normalize because people will continue to travel for pleasure and people will continue to travel for business. May not be as much as what it was today, but that would lead to growth in that segment. My uh, my advice essentially would be, see, not everybody will get placed in the travel industry now. Okay, for example, um, if there was a pilot earlier who wanted to start working with, say, Air India or Jet Airways or British Airways, they will not find as many jobs now as they would have done earlier, right? Especially in this space. So that's where they need to get a little more creative. They need to not apply to these companies. They need to apply to logistic companies because logistics is going to see an increase in demand. They are going to have their own personal fleet of airlines because companies like Amazon and Alibaba and Flipkart are going to see a growth in their business, and they're obviously going to also deploy their own fleet of airlines to cater to this. So you might as well apply there rather than these large travel companies previously. So those are the things somebody can do. But over and above that, that would still not complete the intake of all of those people that are passing out today. For those students, I would suggest that they join probably an IT company in the travel space. Okay, because they have the travel knowledge. Okay, if they learn and equip themselves with IT knowledge, they can actually go into IT industry as a specialized person from that particular industry and be of much more value add. So that is something that I would recommend that would work for them.
Yes, and now there's a last question. Which are the sectors who would do more hiring for MBAs?
So the sectors that would do hiring for MBAs will obviously be the traditional ones that always hired more. but you will also see a lot of startups, hiring for MBAs. They may not offer the same high salaries, but they would probably offer ESOPs, and they would hire and they will offer lesser salaries. But those will be far better options than not having much of an opportunity. So that is where I would suggest that institutes also encourage their students to take on.
Okay. So that's it for this session. I'd like to firstly thank Mr. Faiz for taking out his valuable time and scheduling a webinar for all the honorary people like directors, principals, HODs, and training and placement officers. And I'd also like to thank all the attendees today to attend the webinar. And I'm sure that you all must have gathered some very good insight from industrial insight from the expert. I'd like to request everyone to just fill the Google form, just fill the webinar feedback form, wherein you can also sign up for the regular webinars that will be coming up very soon. I'll hope to